It was a quiet night in the city of Medina. The desert wind moved softly through the narrow streets, and the lamps in the homes of the believers flickered gently in the darkness. Inside one of those homes, a child had just been born, a child whose name would echo through history for centuries. This child was Hussain ibn Ali. His father was Ali ibn Abi Talib, known for his courage, wisdom, and deep faith. His mother was Fatima bint Muhammad, a woman respected and loved by the entire community. But what made this moment even more special was the grandfather of this child, Muhammad.
When the Prophet ﷺ heard the news of his grandson's birth, his face filled with joy. He went to see the child immediately.
The small baby was brought to him, wrapped gently in cloth. The Prophet held the newborn in his arms. He looked at the child with deep affection and named him Hussain. Then he performed a beautiful tradition. He softly recited the call to prayer into the baby's ear. It was the first sound the child would hear in this world, the message of faith. Those who witnessed this moment could see how special this child was to the Prophet. Hussain was not just a grandson. He was part of the Prophet's family, raised under his direct care and love. In the coming years, the people of Medina would often see a beautiful sight: the Prophet walking through the streets with his two grandsons beside him, Hassan ibn Ali and Hussain ibn Ali. They were still small children, but they carried something special within them, and the Prophet knew it.
His name shall be Hussain.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah.
Look, the messenger of God walking with Hassan and Hussain.
How deeply he loves them.
As Hussein grew older, his childhood was filled with moments that the people of Medina would never forget. Sometimes the Prophet ﷺ would be giving a sermon inside the mosque in Medina. The believers would sit quietly, listening to every word. Then suddenly, two small children would run toward him. It was Hassan and Hussain.
The Prophet would stop speaking, step down from where he stood, and gently lift them into his arms. Then he would continue speaking while holding them. The people watched this with smiles. It was a powerful message. Even the leader of the Muslim community showed deep love and kindness to children. One day, the Prophet said something about his grandsons that would be remembered forever. He declared,
Hassan and Hussain are the leaders of the youth of paradise.
Those words spread throughout the community. People understood that these two children were not ordinary.
Hussain grew up watching his father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, learning from his courage and wisdom. At the same time, he absorbed the gentleness and spiritual strength of his grandfather, Muhammad. The young boy was known for his kindness, humility, and strong sense of justice. But life would soon bring great changes. Years later, the Muslim community faced one of the most painful moments in its history: the passing of the Prophet. For Hussain, it was not only the loss of a leader, it was the loss of a grandfather who had loved him deeply.
Strength is not only in the sword, my son. It is in patience and justice.
And the best among people are those who show mercy.
The messenger of God has returned to his Lord.
Medina will never be the same.
My grandfather.
After the passing of Muhammad, the city of Medina felt different. The streets were quieter.
The companions who had once gathered around the Prophet now carried the heavy responsibility of guiding the growing Muslim community.
Hussain was still young, but he was growing quickly. He watched the events unfolding around him carefully. He saw how his father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, continued to serve the community with wisdom and patience. He also saw how his older brother, Hassan ibn Ali, carried himself with dignity and calmness. From both of them, Hussain learned valuable lessons. He learned that leadership was not about power, it was about responsibility. He learned that patience was sometimes stronger than anger. And most importantly, he learned that truth must always be defended, even when it is difficult.
As the years passed, Hussein became known among the people for his character. He was respected not only because of his family, but also because of his behavior. He helped the poor. He treated people with kindness. And he never spoke arrogantly.
Those who met him often said he reminded them of the Prophet. But destiny was slowly moving the story toward a much bigger moment in history. A moment that would test courage, faith, and sacrifice.
When I see Hussein, he reminds me so much of the Messenger of God.
His character, his humility, it is the same light.
The times ahead may not be easy, but Hussein has the courage and faith to face whatever comes.
The years continued to pass, and the Muslim world expanded far beyond the deserts of Arabia. New cities were built.
New nations encountered Islam. But with growth also came political tensions and disagreements.
Hussein watched these events carefully. By now, he had become a respected figure among the people. Wherever he went, people greeted him with honor. They remembered that he was the grandson of the Prophet. But Hussein himself never sought power or attention. He lived simply, focusing on faith, family, and helping others. Still, the world around him was changing. New leaders were rising. New political struggles were forming. And in the city of Kufa, many people were watching Hussein closely. They believed that one day he might play a major role in the future of the Muslim world. But Hussein did not know yet how his path would unfold. Far away, events were slowly beginning that would eventually lead to one of the most powerful and emotional moments in Islamic history. A place that would later become known to the entire world, Karbala. A place where courage, sacrifice, and faith would be remembered forever.
And the story of that journey was only just beginning.
The city of Medina had witnessed many historic moments. It had seen the arrival of Muhammad, the birth of a community, and the spread of a message that would change the world. Among the people of Medina lived two young men who carried the legacy of the Prophet in a very special way. They were his grandsons, Hassan ibn Ali and Hussein ibn Ali. From their childhood, the people had seen the love the Prophet showed them. Many companions remembered the moments when the Prophet would hold the two boys close and treat them with affection and honor.
Years passed, and the Muslim world expanded far beyond Arabia. New lands, new cities, and new people had entered the growing Muslim community. But along with expansion came new challenges.
After the time of the early leaders of the Muslim community, the leadership eventually came to Ali ibn Abi Talib, the father of Hassan and Hussein. Ali was known for his justice, wisdom, and courage. Yet his time as leader was not peaceful. The Muslim world was facing internal conflict and political disagreements. Different groups had different views about leadership and authority. Despite these challenges, Ali continued to guide the community with patience and strength. But one day, tragedy struck. In the year 661 CE, Ali was attacked and later passed away from his injuries. The news spread quickly across the Muslim lands. The people were shocked. For Hassan and Hussein, it was not just the loss of a leader, it was the loss of their father. Now a new question arose. Who would lead the Muslim community? Many people turned their eyes toward Hassan ibn Ali.
In the city of Kufa, where Ali had governed, the people gathered and pledged their loyalty to Hassan ibn Ali.
Hassan was now stepping into a role that carried enormous responsibility.
He was respected by the people, not only because he was the grandson of the Prophet, but because of his character. He was known for generosity, patience, and humility. However, the political situation was far from simple. In the region of Syria, another powerful leader had control, Muawiyah I. Muawiyah had been governing Syria for many years and had built strong support there. He also believed that he had a legitimate claim to leadership. Now the Muslim world faced a dangerous situation.
Two leaders, two centers of power, and the possibility of another civil war. Armies began to gather.
Supporters of Hassan prepared themselves for battle, believing they must defend their leader. But Hassan was watching the situation carefully. He understood something very important. If war broke out between these two sides, it would not simply be a battle between armies. It would be Muslims fighting Muslims, and the cost would be devastating. Thousands of lives could be lost, families could be destroyed, and the unity of the Muslim community could be shattered. Hassan had the power to fight, but he also had another option.
As the tension grew, both sides moved closer to conflict. Soldiers gathered. Banners were raised. The atmosphere felt heavy with uncertainty. Many people expected that a major war would begin soon.
But Hassan made a decision that few expected. Instead of pushing toward battle, he opened the door for negotiations with Muawiyah I. For some of his supporters, this was confusing. They believed that Hassan had the right to lead and that they should fight to defend that right. But Hassan was thinking about something bigger than political power. He was thinking about the safety of the Muslim community. He knew that war could cause wounds that might take generations to heal. So discussions began. Messengers traveled between the two sides. Conditions were discussed carefully. Eventually, Hassan proposed a solution that would change the course of history.
He would step down from leadership under certain conditions, allowing Muawiyah to govern the Muslim lands.
But there was an important understanding within this agreement. The leadership would not become a permanent hereditary monarchy, and after Muawiyah's time, the community would again decide its leadership. For Hassan, this was not a defeat. It was a sacrifice. He was giving up political authority in order to prevent a devastating civil war. When the agreement was finally reached, the armies that had been preparing to fight slowly stepped back. The war that many feared would happen never began. Thousands of lives were saved. History would later remember this moment as one of the most important acts of peace in early Islamic history.
After the treaty was completed, Hassan ibn Ali left political leadership and returned to a quieter life.
He moved back to Medina, the city where his grandfather had once walked the streets and guided the community.
In Medina, Hassan focused on teaching, worship, and helping people. Those who met him often spoke about his generosity.
Leader, the people still support you.
Peace for the community is greater than power.
He is the grandson of the messenger.
And yet he chose peace for us all. Your kindness inspires many. May God reward your generosity.
There are many stories about how he helped the poor and shared what he had with those in need. Sometimes he would give away large portions of his wealth simply to support others. His life became a powerful example of humility and compassion. Meanwhile, Hussein ibn Ali continued to live alongside his brother. The two brothers remained close and supported each other through the changing times. For a while, the Muslim world experienced stability under Muawiyah's rule, but history was slowly moving toward another turning point. Years later, Hassan would pass away in Medina. His death deeply affected his brother Hussein and the many people who respected him. With Hassan gone, a new chapter of history began to unfold. The leadership of the Muslim world would soon pass to a new ruler, Yazid I, and that moment would place Hussein in a position that would test his courage, faith, and principles. A decision would soon be demanded from him, a decision that would eventually lead to a place that the world would never forget, Karbala. The years after the passing of Hassan ibn Ali brought a quiet but uneasy calm to the Muslim world. In the city of Medina, life moved slowly as it always had. People prayed in the same mosque where the Prophet had once stood, and the streets still carried the memories of the earliest days of Islam. Among the respected figures of the city lived Hussein ibn Ali. He lived simply, just as his brother had done before him. He spent his time teaching, helping the poor, and guiding those who came to him with questions about faith and life. Many people looked up to him, not only because he was the grandson of Muhammad, but because of his honesty, courage, and deep sense of justice.
For many years, the Muslim lands were under the rule of Muawiyah I. From his capital in Damascus, he governed a vast territory that stretched far beyond Arabia.
During this time, Hussein stayed away from politics. He did not attempt to challenge the ruler or create division among the Muslims. Instead, he focused on preserving the values that his grandfather had taught. But as Muawiyah grew older, an important question began to rise across the Muslim world. Who would lead after him? For generations, leadership among Muslims had been determined through consultation and agreement among the community. But Muawiyah made a decision that would change that tradition. He chose his own son to succeed him. That son was Yazid I. This announcement created unease in many parts of the Muslim world. Some people accepted the decision, believing it would preserve stability. Others felt that leadership should not become hereditary. Among those who watched this situation carefully was Hussein. For now, he remained silent in Medina. But soon, silence would no longer be possible.
In the year 680 CE, news spread quickly across the Muslim lands. Muawiyah had died. With his passing, Yazid I officially became the new ruler of the Muslim Empire.
One of Yazid's first priorities was to secure loyalty from influential figures across the Muslim world. He understood that without their support, his rule might face challenges, so letters and orders were sent to governors in various cities. One of those orders reached the governor of Medina. The message was clear. Certain individuals must pledge allegiance to Yazid. Among the names mentioned was Hussein ibn Ali. The governor understood that this request was sensitive. Hussein was not an ordinary person. He was the grandson of the Prophet, respected by many across the Muslim world. Still, the command had come from the new ruler. So one evening, Hussein was invited to meet the governor. The meeting took place quietly, away from the public eye. The governor informed Hussein of the new ruler's demand. He must pledge loyalty to Yazid. For a moment, the room felt heavy with silence. Hussein listened calmly. Then he gave an answer that would echo through history. He did not give his allegiance. Instead, he explained that a matter of such importance could not be decided secretly or under pressure. It was a decision that required careful thought and transparency. But beneath his calm words, Hussein had already made something clear. He would not simply submit to a ruler he believed was unjust.
The situation in Medina quickly became tense. News began to spread quietly that Hussein had not pledged allegiance to Yazid I. Some people admired his courage. Others worried about what might happen next.
The governor of Medina found himself in a difficult position. On one side was the order from the new ruler demanding loyalty. On the other side was the respected grandson of the Prophet. Pressure began to increase. Hussein understood that remaining in Medina might lead to conflict within the city itself. He did not want bloodshed to occur in the same place where his grandfather had built a community of faith and unity. So he made a decision. He would leave Medina. Before departing, Hussein visited the grave of his grandfather, Muhammad. It was a deeply emotional moment. Standing near the resting place of the man who had raised him and loved him, Hussein prayed and reflected.
He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but he also knew that he could not compromise on what he believed was right.
Soon after, Hussein prepared to travel. He gathered members of his family and a small group of supporters. Their destination was the sacred city of Mecca. As they left Medina, many people watched with concern. They did not yet know that this journey would eventually lead to one of the most powerful and tragic events in Islamic history. For Hussein, however, the journey had already begun. A journey guided not by ambition, but by principles.
When Hussein ibn Ali arrived in Mecca, the news of his presence spread quickly.
Pilgrims and visitors from many regions were already gathering in the city.
Some came for worship, others came to trade or meet relatives.
Now many of them also came to see Hussein. They listened carefully to his words and observed his character. Meanwhile, beyond Mecca, another development was beginning to unfold. In the distant city of Kufa, groups of people were discussing the political situation. Many of them were unhappy with the rule of Yazid. When they heard that Hussein had refused to pledge allegiance, they saw an opportunity. Soon, letters began to arrive in Mecca. Letter after letter, each one carried a similar message. The people of Kufa were inviting Hussein to come to their city. They promised that if he arrived, they would support him and stand beside him. Hussein did not respond immediately. He understood that such promises could be complicated and uncertain. Still, the letters continued to arrive. Dozens, then hundreds, each urging him to come. Hussein knew that any decision he made would shape the future of the Muslim world, and soon he would have to choose whether to remain in Mecca
or begin a journey toward a land that history would remember forever, Karbala. The road to Karbala had begun.
The sacred city of Mecca was filled with life. Pilgrims from distant lands walked through its narrow paths. The air carried the sound of prayers, and the site of the Kaaba stood at the center, just as it had for generations. It was a place of peace, a place where people came seeking closeness to Allah. Among those present in the city was Hussein ibn Ali. After leaving Medina, Hussein had come to Mecca to stay away from immediate conflict. Here, he found a temporary calm, a moment to reflect before deciding his next step. People quickly learned that he was in Mecca. They came to visit him.
Some came out of love and respect. Others came seeking guidance. Many simply wanted to be near the grandson of Muhammad.
Hussein welcomed them all with kindness, but beneath the calm of Mecca, something else was happening. Messages were arriving, letters from a distant city. That city was Kufa. The letters came in large numbers. Each one carried the same message. We are waiting for you. Come to us. We will support you. The people of Kufa were expressing their dissatisfaction with the rule of Yazid I. They believed that Hussein should come and lead them. At first, Hussein did not rush to respond. He knew that such promises could be uncertain. He understood the weight of what was being asked of him. This was not just a journey. This was a decision that could change everything.
Another message has arrived.
From a distant city.
From Kufa. We are waiting for you. Come to us. We will stand by you.
Promises are not always what they seem. Every decision carries a burden. This is not just a journey. This is a test.
As the days passed, the letters from Kufa continued to arrive. Dozens turned into hundreds. Each letter repeated the same plea. We have no leader. Come to us and we will stand with you.
Hussein could not make such a decision based on words alone, so he chose to verify the situation. He sent a trusted representative to Kufa, his cousin, Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil's mission was simple but critical. He was to observe the situation in Kufa, meet the people, and determine whether their promises were genuine. When Muslim ibn Aqil arrived in Kufa, he was welcomed by many. People gathered around him and expressed their support for Hussein. Reports began to return to Mecca. The early messages were encouraging. They suggested that the people of Kufa were serious about their invitation.
Welcome, welcome! You are not alone here. We stand with Hussein! Tell him we are ready.
The people are with you. Their support is strong. They are waiting for your arrival. The situation appears promising.
Meanwhile, in Mecca, Hussein continued to reflect. He spoke with those around him. Some advised him to be cautious. They warned him that political situations could change quickly. They reminded him that promises made in large numbers could disappear just as easily. But Hussein was not making his decision based on fear. He was thinking about responsibility. If people were truly calling him for leadership, could he ignore them? If injustice was taking place, could he remain silent? These questions weighed heavily on his heart.
As time passed, another concern began to grow. The season of Hajj was approaching.
Pilgrims from across the Muslim world were gathering in Mecca. The city was becoming more crowded with each passing day. But along with the crowds came a new danger.
There were reports that agents of Yazid I might attempt to confront Hussein in Mecca. The sacred city was meant to be a place of peace. Violence within its boundaries was unthinkable. Hussein understood that if conflict reached Mecca, it could lead to bloodshed in one of the holiest places in Islam. That was something he could not allow. So he made a difficult decision. He would leave Mecca before the Hajj began. He would give up the opportunity to complete the pilgrimage that year in order to protect the sanctity of the city. This decision showed his priorities clearly. For Hussein, preserving the peace and sanctity of sacred places was more important than personal plans. As preparations for departure began, many people felt a sense of unease. They knew that this journey was not ordinary. Some of his companions approached him and expressed their concerns. They reminded him of the risks. They warned him about the uncertainty of Kufa. But Hussein remained firm. He listened to their advice with respect, but his decision did not change. He believed that he was moving forward on a path that required courage and trust in Allah.
This journey is not like any other.
The risks are great. Kufa is uncertain. Things can change quickly.
I hear your concerns, and I value them. But this path is not chosen out of fear.
The day of departure arrived. The sun rose over the desert as Hussein prepared to leave Mecca.
With him were members of his family and a small group of loyal companions. It was not a large army.
It was not a display of power. It was a journey of purpose.
As the caravan began to move, the people of Mecca watched in silence. Some felt hope, others felt fear. Many sensed that this was the beginning of something significant. Hussein looked ahead toward the long desert road. He did not know every detail of what awaited him, but he knew one thing clearly: he could not turn back. This journey was not driven by ambition. It was driven by principles. It was about standing for truth, even when the path ahead was uncertain. As the caravan moved farther away from Mecca, the desert stretched endlessly before them. Each step brought them closer to a destination that history would remember forever: Karbala. But before reaching Karbala, something unexpected would happen. The city of Kufa was restless. Its streets were filled with whispers, its gatherings with quiet discussions, and its people with uncertainty. For years, many in Kufa had been watching the political changes unfolding across the Muslim world. And when news reached them that Hussein ibn Ali had refused to pledge allegiance to Yazid I, something ignited within them: hope. Letters began to flow from Kufa to Mecca, where Hussein was staying. "We have no leader," they wrote. "Come to us. We will support you. We stand ready to follow you." One letter turned into dozens. Dozens turned into hundreds.
Soon, it seemed as if the entire city was united in one message: Hussein must come to Kufa. But Hussein did not rush.
He understood the weight of leadership. He knew that words alone were not enough. Promises written on paper could fade under pressure.
So he made a careful decision. He would send someone he trusted completely to verify the situation. That man was his cousin, Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil was known for his honesty, courage, and loyalty. If anyone could understand the true situation in Kufa, it was him. With this responsibility placed upon him, Muslim ibn Aqil set out toward Kufa. As he entered the city, the response was immediate. People gathered around him. They welcomed him with enthusiasm. They pledged their loyalty to Hussein through him. Reports began to spread quickly. Thousands were giving their support. Some accounts mention numbers reaching into the thousands, people lining up to show their allegiance. For a moment, it seemed that Kufa had truly united. And far away in Mecca, Hussein began receiving these hopeful reports.
Are you Muslim ibn Aqil?
I come on behalf of Hussein ibn Ali.
We stand with you. We give our loyalty to Hussein.
Thousands were now declaring their support. We are with Hussein. Kufa stands united.
In the early days of Muslim ibn Aqil's arrival, Kufa felt alive with energy. Homes opened their doors to him. People visited him in large numbers. They spoke with confidence. They spoke with certainty.
They assured him again and again, "We will stand with Hussein." Muslim ibn Aqil observed carefully. He saw the crowds, he heard the promises, and based on what he witnessed, he sent a message back to Hussein ibn Ali. The message carried hope. It suggested that the people of Kufa were ready, that they were sincere, that they were waiting. But while this wave of support was rising, another force was quietly entering the city. The ruler, Yazid I, had been informed of what was happening in Kufa. He understood the danger. If Kufa truly supported Hussein, it could challenge his authority. So he took action. A new governor was sent to Kufa, one known for his strictness and control. His arrival changed everything. The atmosphere of the city began to shift. Fear slowly replaced confidence. The same people who had once gathered openly now became cautious. The governor began to tighten control over the city. Warnings were issued, threats were made, tribal leaders were pressured, and suddenly, the voices that had once been loud began to grow quiet.
Who is that coming? The new governor?
He is strict. We must be careful.
Keep the streets clear. No gatherings. All gatherings are forbidden. The city has changed. No one dares speak.
We must comply.
The change in Kufa was not immediate, but it was powerful. One by one, the people who had pledged support began to step back. At first, it was small. A few people stopped visiting. A few avoided public gatherings. Then it grew.
Crowds became smaller. The energy disappeared. The promises began to fade. Muslim ibn Aqil noticed the change. He felt it. He saw it. The same streets that had once been filled with supporters now felt distant. The same people who had once spoken with confidence now avoided eye contact. Fear had taken hold. The pressure from the authorities had done its work. People began thinking about their safety, their families, their lives, and slowly, they withdrew. Until one day, Muslim ibn Aqil found himself alone. The thousands who had promised support were gone. The doors that had once opened were now closed.
The voices that had once called out were silent. It was one of the most powerful and painful moments in the story.
A man who had arrived with hope now stood alone in a city that had once promised everything. Still, he did not give up.
He remained firm in his purpose, but the situation had become extremely dangerous. The governor's forces were now actively searching for him. Eventually, Muslim ibn Aqil was captured. Even in captivity, he remained calm. He knew that his mission had been sincere. He had acted with honesty and loyalty. But the reality of the situation was now clear. The support that had once seemed strong had disappeared. And soon after, Muslim ibn Aqil was martyred.
Say, Amir Yazid.
My Amir is only Hussein.
The news of what had happened in Kufa did not immediately reach Hussein ibn Ali. Far away, Hussein was still on his journey.
He was moving forward with his family and companions, guided by the reports he had received earlier. Reports filled with hope. Reports that no longer reflected reality. The desert stretched before them. Step by step, they moved closer to their destination, unaware that the city they were heading toward had already changed, unaware that the support they had been promised was no longer there. Back in Kufa, the streets were quiet once again, but this time the silence carried a different meaning. It was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of regret, the silence of promises broken, the silence of a moment that could never be undone. And ahead, on the road between Mecca and Karbala, Hussein continued his journey, a journey that had begun with hope, but was now leading towards something far more difficult. The desert road stretched endlessly beneath the burning sky. Across the vast land between Mecca and Kufa, a small caravan moved steadily forward. At its center was Hussein ibn Ali, traveling with his family and loyal companions. The journey was difficult, but the purpose behind it was clear. Hussein believed he was answering the call of the people of Kufa. Letters had come in great numbers, promises had been made, support had been pledged. And although many had warned him to be cautious, Hussein had chosen to continue.
He was not traveling as a conqueror. He was not marching with an army. He was moving with his family, his children, and a small group of faithful supporters. This alone showed that his intention was not war. His intention was responsibility.
As the caravan moved deeper into the desert, travelers coming from the opposite direction brought troubling reports. They spoke of unrest in Kufa. They spoke of fear spreading through the city. Some reports suggested that the political situation had changed, but the information was incomplete. Nothing was yet certain. Hussein listened carefully to every report, weighing every word. The road ahead was becoming less clear, yet he continued, because turning back was no longer simple. The journey had already begun, and soon, the truth about Kufa would be revealed.
There is unrest in Kufa.
Fear is spreading through the city.
The situation, it has changed.
But nothing is confirmed. Nothing is certain. I hear every word, and I weigh them carefully.
The road ahead is no longer clear.
As the caravan moved forward, the atmosphere began to change. The land grew quieter. The travelers became more alert. Then, one day, devastating news arrived. The messenger brought word that Muslim ibn Aqil, Hussein's trusted cousin sent ahead to Kufa, had been killed.
Muslim ibn Aqil has been killed. He was betrayed in Kufa.
Ya Allah.
The news struck the caravan like a storm. Muslim ibn Aqil had been sent to confirm the loyalty of the people. His letters had brought hope. Now the truth had emerged. The support in Kufa had collapsed. The promises had vanished. And the one man Hussein trusted there had been martyred. For everyone in the caravan, the meaning of this news was clear. The city they were heading toward was no longer waiting to welcome them. The path ahead had become dangerous. Some of Hussein's companions urged him to reconsider. They argued that the purpose of the journey had changed. The support they expected was gone.
The invitation that had called them forward was no longer real. But Hussein paused and reflected.
He understood the danger fully, yet his decision was not based only on the people of Kufa. It was based on principles. He could not simply surrender to injustice. Even now, even with the danger growing, he believed that standing for truth required courage. Some companions, realizing what lay ahead, chose to leave. Hussein did not force anyone to remain. He gave them the freedom to depart. Those who stayed did so knowingly. They stayed because they believed in the path they were on.
The people of Kufa may no longer stand with us.
My decision was never based only on them.
Then why continue?
Because truth does not change when people abandon it.
The danger grows with every mile.
I know the danger.
Then we can still turn back.
To surrender to injustice is not the path of truth.
No one is forced to remain. You are free to leave.
We stay by choice. We believe in this path.
Then we move forward together.
Not long after receiving the news, the caravan encountered a new threat. A military force appeared on the horizon. Dust rose from the earth as armed riders approached. This was the force led by Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Tamimi.
Their mission was not yet to attack. Their mission was to stop Hussein. When the two groups met, tension filled the air. Hussein and his small caravan stood facing armed soldiers sent by the authority of Yazid I. Yet despite the danger, Hussein remained calm. The soldiers were thirsty after their journey in the desert. Hussein ordered that water be given to them. Even in the face of threat, he showed mercy. This moment revealed his character. He did not respond to force with cruelty. He responded with humanity.
After this encounter, the commander informed Hussein that he was under orders to prevent him from returning or moving freely.
The caravan would be escorted under military watch. This was the moment the truth became undeniable. The journey was no longer voluntary. The road ahead was being controlled. Hussein's group was no longer simply traveling. They were being directed. The freedom of movement was gone. The trap was closing.
Under the watch of armed soldiers, the caravan continued across the desert. The destination was no longer Kufa. Instead, they were forced toward an isolated land, a barren place with little shelter, a place that would soon become known across history. That place was Karbala.
We are still moving, but not by our own choice.
The path has changed, but the journey continues.
This is not Kufa.
Then where are they taking us? To an empty land ahead.
What is this place?
This place is Karbala.
When Hussein arrived there, he looked at the land before him. Dry earth, open desert, no city, no welcoming supporters, only isolation. This was where the caravan was ordered to stop. Here, in this lonely land, Hussein and his family would remain surrounded. The promises of Kufa had disappeared. The journey that began with hope had led into confinement. The realization was complete. They had been drawn into a trap. Yet even now, Hussein did not show fear. He understood that the days ahead would be difficult, but he remained firm.
The people with him looked across the desert, sensing that something immense was approaching.
This was no longer a political journey. This was becoming a stand of faith, truth, and sacrifice. And as the camp settled in the land of Karbala, enemy forces continued to gather. The desert was growing quieter, but beneath that silence, history was moving toward one of its most unforgettable moments. The next chapter would not be about travel. It would be about siege. And the darkness of Karbala was only beginning. The land of Karbala was silent. A dry plain stretched beneath the blazing sun with little shade and no shelter except the tents that had just been raised by the small caravan of Hussein ibn Ali. Only days earlier, this journey had still carried uncertainty. There had been questions. There had been hope. Perhaps there would be negotiation. Perhaps the people of Kufa would still come. Perhaps conflict could be avoided. But as Hussein and his family settled in Karbala, the truth was becoming impossible to ignore.
This was not a temporary stop. This was the place where the road ended. The small group with Hussein was not an army. It was a camp made up of family members, children, and loyal companions. There were tents for the women, tents for the children, and a small number of men who stood ready to defend the camp if necessary. The mood in the camp was calm but uncertain.
The companions understood that they were surrounded by danger, but they remained beside Hussein willingly. Their loyalty was not based on numbers, it was based on conviction. Meanwhile, beyond the camp, more forces were arriving. The army sent under the authority of Yazid I was increasing in size. More soldiers gathered across the plains of Karbala. Dust rose on the horizon as reinforcements continued to arrive. The distance between the two camps was small. The difference in numbers was enormous. One side had a small group of loyal believers. The other had a growing military force. Yet in the camp of Hussein, there was no panic. There was concern. There was sadness. But there was also patience. Hussein continued to seek peace. He still hoped to avoid bloodshed. He did not seek war. He sought justice. But the orders given to the opposing army were becoming harsher, and soon the siege would begin.
As the days passed, the military presence around Karbala became stronger.
Command of the forces was placed under Umar ibn Sa'd, who arrived with authority over the growing army. His responsibility was clear. Hussein was not to leave. He was to be contained. At first, there was still room for negotiation. Messages were exchanged. Hussein made it clear that he did not wish to fight. He offered peaceful options. He proposed that he be allowed to return, or that he be allowed to go elsewhere. His goal was to avoid violence, but the orders coming from the leadership were not moving toward peace.
My command is clear. Hussein must not leave this land. Surround the camp. No path is to remain open.
I have not come here to wage war. If you do not wish for me to remain, then allow me to return, and let there be peace between us.
The command has come. There will be no withdrawal and no agreement. Tighten the control around Hussein's camp. He is not to leave.
They were moving toward pressure. And then, one of the harshest decisions was made.
The access to the Euphrates River was blocked. The river was near enough to see. Its water flowed within reach. Yet Hussein's camp was forbidden from accessing it. Soldiers were placed between the camp and the river. No water was to be taken. No access was to be allowed. This order changed everything. Until this moment, the situation had been political. Now it became humanitarian, because inside the camp were not only fighters, there were children, there were women, there were families. And now the source of water had been cut off.
At first, the effect was gradual. The water already in the camp began to run low. The heat of the desert consumed what remained.
The sun burned down on the tents. The dry wind carried dust across the plain. Every hour increased the hardship.
The thirst began to spread. The children felt it first. Their voices grew weaker. Their lips became dry. The women in the camp tried to comfort them, but comfort could not replace water. The men understood what was happening. They could hear the suffering around them. And all the while, the river flowed nearby, visible, close, yet unreachable.
This was one of the cruelest realities of the siege. The relief they needed was near them, but blocked by armed men. Inside the camp, the emotional pressure grew heavier. The suffering of the children deeply affected the companions.
These were men ready to face battle without fear, but hearing the thirst of the children tested them in a different way. Still, Hussein remained patient. He did not react with rage. He did not abandon his principles. Even under these conditions, he continued seeking a peaceful resolution. He spoke with the opposing side. He reminded them who he was. He reminded them that among his camp were the family of the Prophet. He appealed to conscience. But the siege remained. The water stayed blocked, and the suffering increased.
As the thirst worsened, the atmosphere in the camp changed. The companions could feel that the enemy was tightening control. The siege was no longer just about stopping movement. It was about breaking morale.
It was an attempt to weaken the camp before any battle had even begun. Yet something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking the spirit of Hussein's camp, the hardship strengthened their resolve. The companions saw the suffering. They saw the thirst. They saw the injustice. And rather than abandon Hussein, they became more determined to stand beside him, because now the truth was undeniable. This was no longer about political allegiance. This was about standing against oppression. The camp of Hussein was small, thirsty, and surrounded, but it was united. Each person understood the seriousness of what was unfolding, and among them was one man whose heart could not bear to watch the suffering of the children. That man was Abbas ibn Ali. Known for his courage and loyalty, Abbas watched as the camp suffered from thirst. He saw the dry lips of the children. He heard their cries, and within him grew the determination to do something. Soon he would ride toward the river, not for victory, not for conquest, but for water. And that journey toward the Euphrates River would become one of the most emotional moments in the story of Karbala. The heat over Karbala had become unbearable. The sun burned over the desert camp of Hussein ibn Ali, and every hour without water made the suffering worse. The tents were filled with thirst, exhaustion, and quiet pain. The children were the hardest to watch. Their lips had become dry. Their voices were weaker than before. The water supplies were gone, and just beyond the camp, the waters of the Euphrates River continued to flow, close enough to see, yet impossible to reach. The enemy guards remained stationed near the riverbank, refusing access.
Inside the camp, every loyal companion felt the pain of the moment. But one man felt it in a way that stirred immediate action.
That man was Abbas ibn Ali. Abbas was the half-brother of Hussein, the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, and one of the bravest men in the camp. He was known for his strength. He was known for his courage, but above all, he was known for his loyalty. When Abbas looked at the children suffering from thirst, he could no longer remain still. He approached Hussein ibn Ali and asked for permission to go to the river. He wanted to bring water back for the camp. This was not a mission for battle. It was a mission of mercy. Hussein knew the danger. The river was heavily guarded. The path was dangerous. But he also knew Abbas. He knew his determination, and permission was given.
My brother, allow me to go to the river. The children are suffering from thirst. I will bring water for the camp.
The river is guarded, Abbas. The road is filled with danger. They will not let you pass easily.
I do not seek battle. I seek water for the children.
Go then, my brother. May Allah present you. I will return with water, inshallah.
Abbas prepared himself. He mounted his horse. He carried a water bag, hoping to fill it and return. And as he rode out from the camp, every eye watched him, because now the hope of water rested on one man.
Abbas rode across the desert with determination. The enemy soldiers saw him approaching. They understood why he was coming.
The river they guarded was not just water. It had become a weapon of pressure against Hussein's camp. Abbas pressed forward. His courage was undeniable. The enemy forces attempted to stop him, but he kept moving. His goal was simple: reach the river, fill the water bag, return to the camp. Nothing else mattered. Through courage and force, Abbas broke through to the bank of the Euphrates River. At last, he had reached the water. The river flowed before him, clear, cool, and life-giving. After days of thirst in the burning desert, the sight of water was overwhelming. He stepped toward the river. He cupped water in his hands. He lifted it toward himself.
At that moment, Abbas had every reason to drink. He was exhausted. He was thirsty.
The cold water was within reach. But then, a thought came to his heart.
How could I drink while the children in Hussein's camp remained thirsty?
How could he satisfy his own thirst while the camp still suffered? And so, he did something unforgettable. He let the water fall. He refused to drink. Instead, he filled the water bag. This moment became one of the most powerful symbols of loyalty in the story of Karbala, because Abbas had reached the water and chose thirst.
With the water bag filled, Abbas ibn Ali turned his horse back toward the camp. Now the mission was only half complete.
The water had to reach the tents. The children were waiting. The camp was waiting, and the enemy knew it. The soldiers moved to stop him before he could return. The battle around him intensified. Their target was clear: prevent the water from reaching Hussein's camp. Abbas rode forward under attack, protecting the water bag. Every moment mattered. Every second counted. He was no longer fighting for survival. He was fighting for water. The enemy surrounded him from multiple directions. Still, he pressed forward. He did not abandon the mission. He kept moving toward the camp. But the attacks became relentless. Blows came from every side. The effort to stop him grew more violent. Yet Abbas remained focused. The water bag had to reach the children. That was all that mattered. But in the chaos of the attack, The odds became overwhelming. Abbas was struck again and again. The mission was slipping away. Still, he held on. Still, he fought to protect the water. His loyalty did not weaken, even as the danger closed around him. This was no longer simply courage. This was sacrifice.
In the final moments of the struggle, Abbas ibn Ali fell. The mission to bring water back to the camp was not completed.
The water never reached the thirsty children. The camp of Hussain ibn Ali waited for Abbas to return, but instead, news spread that he had fallen. For Hussein, this was a heartbreaking loss. Abbas was more than a brother. He was a protector, a loyal supporter, a symbol of strength within the camp. And now he was gone.
Open your eyes, my brother! Abbas. Call me brother just once, Abbas. My master, oh Hussein.
Yet the story of Abbas did not end in defeat, because what he demonstrated that day became unforgettable. He had reached the river. He had held water in his hands, but he refused to drink because others were thirsty.
This act of loyalty became one of the most emotional moments in the story of Karbala. It showed what true devotion looks like, it showed what sacrifice means, and it showed the depth of loyalty that existed in the camp of Hussein. As the sun lowered over Karbala, the camp faced an even darker reality. One of its greatest defenders had fallen, the thirst remained, and the final confrontation was drawing near. Night fell over the silent land of Karbala. The burning heat of the day slowly faded, replaced by a deep stillness. The sky stretched wide above the desert, filled with countless stars, watching over a camp that had already endured days of hardship. In the camp of Hussein ibn Ali, the atmosphere was heavy. The loss of Abbas ibn Ali had shaken everyone. The thirst remained. The enemy forces still surrounded them. And now, the reality was clear. Morning would bring confrontation. The sounds of the camp were quiet. No loud voices, no movement of urgency. Only soft whispers, the flicker of small flames, and the distant presence of an army preparing for battle. Yet inside Hussein's camp, something different was unfolding.
This was not a night of panic. It was a night of reflection, a night of truth.
Hussein looked at the people around him, his family, his companions, those who had chosen to stay beside him despite everything. He knew what lay ahead, and he knew that the choice to remain should never be forced. So he gathered them under the dim light of the camp. He spoke to them with calm and honesty. He told them the reality of the situation, that the enemy wanted him, that the danger was directed at him, and then he said something that would echo through history. Whoever wishes to leave may leave. He gave them complete freedom, no pressure, no expectation. He even suggested that they could use the darkness of the night to go unnoticed. This was not a test of obedience. This was a test of sincerity.
I do not want to force any of you. This is not an easy path. The enemy is after me alone. The danger is directed only at me.
Whoever wishes to leave, may leave. Use the darkness of the night. No one will see you.
The words of Hussein ibn Ali settled over the gathering. The offer was real. Anyone could leave. Anyone could walk away from what was coming. There would be no blame, no shame. The night provided cover. The desert provided escape. All they had to do was choose.
For a moment, silence filled the camp. It was the kind of silence that holds the weight of decision. Each person present understood what lay ahead. They knew that staying meant facing a powerful army. They knew that leaving meant safety. This was the moment where intentions became clear. One by one, the companions began to respond. Their words were not loud, but they were firm. They refused to leave. Some spoke with emotion, some spoke with calm certainty, but all carried the same meaning. We will not leave you.
Among them were men who had seen battles before, men who understood what facing such numbers meant. Yet they did not step back. They did not hesitate. They chose to stay.
This was not because they did not understand the danger. It was because they fully understood it and still chose loyalty. The camp that night became a place where faith was stronger than fear, where conviction was stronger than survival, and where loyalty was proven not by words, but by choice.
As the night deepened over Karbala, a different kind of strength filled the camp.
There was no sound of weapons being prepared, no loud commands. Instead, there were prayers. The companions turned toward worship. They stood in prayer. They recited from the Quran. They sought closeness to Allah. It was a night unlike any other, a night where people prepared not just for battle, but for meeting their Lord. The soft glow of the campfires illuminated figures standing in devotion. Some sat quietly in reflection. Others whispered prayers. The atmosphere carried a sense of peace, even in the face of what was coming.
This was not the peace of safety. It was the peace of certainty. They had made their choice. And now they spent their final night strengthening their connection with Allah.
Hussain himself spent the night in worship. His focus was not on the army surrounding him. It was on his purpose, on his principles, on his trust in Allah. Outside the camp, the opposing forces also prepared. Their numbers were large. Their position was strong. But the difference between the two sides was not just in numbers. It was in intention. Inside the camp of Hussain, there was clarity. Outside, there was command. Inside, there was devotion. Outside, there was duty. And as the hours passed, the distance between these two realities became even more clear.
The night began to move toward its final hours. The stars slowly shifted across the sky. The coolness of the night would soon give way to the heat of the day that would be remembered forever.
Inside the camp of Hussain ibn Ali, there was no regret, no second thoughts. Those who had stayed remained firm. They had been given the chance to leave, and they had chosen to stay. That choice defined everything. It turned a group of individuals into a united stand. A stand built on loyalty, faith, and truth. Hussain looked upon his companions. He saw their strength. He saw their sincerity. And he knew that the morning ahead would test them all. But he also knew that they were ready. Not because they were many, but because they were certain.
As the first light of dawn began to approach, the camp grew quieter. The prayers continued. The hearts remained steady. And the final night came to an end. What followed would not be an ordinary day. It would be a day that history would never forget.
The morning of Ashura rose over the silent plains of Karbala. The first light of dawn slowly spread across the desert, touching the tents of Hussain ibn Ali and the massive army gathered against him. The night before had been filled with prayer, reflection, and devotion. Now the moment had arrived, the day that history would never forget. Inside Hussain's camp, the atmosphere was calm, not because there was no danger, but because everyone present had already made their choice. They knew the odds. They knew the reality. And still, they remained.
The companions stood beside Hussain with unwavering loyalty. They had been given permission to leave during the night, yet no one had abandoned him.
Now, under the rising sun, they prepared themselves for what was ahead.
Hussain walked among the tents, speaking gently to his companions and family members. The children remained inside the camp. The women watched silently, understanding that the hours ahead would change everything. Outside the camp, the opposing forces stretched across the desert in enormous numbers. Flags moved in the wind. Weapons reflected the sunlight. Horses stamped against the sand. The imbalance between the two sides was impossible to ignore. One side carried overwhelming military power, the other carried conviction. As the morning advanced, Hussein mounted his horse and addressed the opposing army. His words were calm, direct, and sincere. He reminded them who he was, the grandson of Muhammad. He reminded them of justice. He reminded them of truth. And he asked them to reflect on why they had come. For a moment, silence spread across the battlefield. The truth of his words was difficult to deny, but leadership and political pressure had already driven events too far. The army remained in position. The confrontation could no longer be avoided.
Look carefully at who stands before you. I stand here for truth and justice.
I did not come seeking power. I came for justice. I came for truth. Ask yourselves, why have you come here today?
His words carry the truth. Hold your positions.
As the sun climbed higher over Karbala, the battle began. One by one, the companions of Hussein ibn Ali stepped forward. These were not men fighting for wealth or power. They were men fighting because they believed in standing beside truth.
Each companion understood that this was likely his final day, yet none hesitated. Some had grown old in faith, others were young and full of life, but every one of them chose loyalty over safety. The desert witnessed scenes of courage that would be remembered for generations. One after another, Hussein's companions entered the battlefield. The numbers against them were overwhelming, yet they fought with determination and conviction. Back in the camp, the families listened to the sounds of battle echoing across the desert. Every farewell carried pain. Every loss made the reality heavier. Still, Hussein remained patient. He watched his companions fall one by one, knowing the sincerity behind every sacrifice. The small group defending him slowly became smaller, yet no one abandoned the field. This was no longer simply a battle. It had become a stand of principles against pressure, a stand of faith against fear. And as the hours passed, the sacrifices grew even more personal. Members of Hussein's own family stepped forward. Young men from the household of Ali ibn Abi Talib entered the battlefield with courage. Despite knowing the danger, the pain inside the camp deepened with every passing moment, but the resolve did not break.
By midday, the battlefield of Karbala had changed completely. The companions who had stood beside Hussein since the beginning were now gone. The desert that had once echoed with their voices had become quieter. The losses were immense. The camp had become surrounded by grief.
Yet Hussein continued to stand firm. The thirst remained severe. The exhaustion of days without water weighed heavily upon everyone. But even under these conditions, Hussein did not surrender. He continued to speak with dignity and patience. He reminded the opposing forces again of justice and accountability before Allah. Some among the opposing army were shaken emotionally. They understood who stood before them. They understood the gravity of the moment. But fear, authority, and pressure kept the army in place. The battle continued.
And slowly, Hussein found himself increasingly alone. The camp behind him had become filled with mourning.
The battlefield before him remained crowded with soldiers. Yet his determination did not weaken.
This moment became the heart of Ashura, not because of military victory, but because of moral courage. A single man standing firm despite overwhelming odds. A man refusing to abandon truth, even when surrounded. The desert wind carried dust across the battlefield. The heat of the day burned intensely, and the final hours of the confrontation approached.
As the afternoon sun lowered over Karbala, the battle reached its final stage. Hussein ibn Ali now stood almost alone.
The companions who had remained loyal until the end had fallen. The camp behind him carried the pain of unimaginable loss. Yet even now, Hussein did not show fear. He stood with dignity, with patience, with unwavering conviction. The opposing forces surrounded him from every direction. The desert that had witnessed days of siege now witnessed the final stand. This was not the victory of numbers. It was the triumph of principle, because even in isolation, Hussein refused to surrender his values. The confrontation came to its conclusion on the plains of Karbala, and with it, one of the most powerful moments in Islamic history was written forever.
Truth does not bow, even in the face of death. Allahu Akbar.
This is the end.
My lord, I return to you with patience.
The silence that followed felt heavier than the battle itself. Dust moved slowly across the desert. The tents of the camp stood under the fading sunlight.
And the land of Karbala became forever connected to sacrifice, courage, and resistance against oppression.